No, it's very it's attuned to what to today's world instead of some other ways.
That's it, Mark. You're going on the road with me. You're gonna be my.
It's a manager.
Now I'm 10% in the books.
Could a precursor of the first wave could they have come in early 1900s? Because my mother was born about 1917, and I can remember her telling me as a child, your body is the temple, your mind is what governs you. You am the I am. And I mean, all this stuff, and it never started making sense to me until really just recently.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at Edgar Casey in the time frame he was around, I mean, there have always been light workers, there have always been first waivers, second waivers, indigos, stuff like that. Just not at the numbers. You know, we've always had people coming in to change and to help teach and guide us. You know, all of the messiahs, you know, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, they were just light workers, very advanced. You know, they are here to teach us. And you know, I went through so much with my upbringing as Southern Baptist, Episcopalian, and stuff like that. And when I started studying other religions, I started realizing if you get real simple, and that's one of the things I'm very fond of Albert Einstein, because he's like, if you don't know if you can't describe a subject simply, you don't know it. If you get real simple with every religion, they all say the same thing. It's all love. You are one. You know, the premise is always the same. So there's always been these people. And one of the things that I love talking about indigos, I love talking about crystal children, first waivers, second waivers. I love talking about these people, all of us. But we have to be careful about getting stuck on, well, if you came in after 1900, you couldn't be this, or before that, you couldn't be this, or whatever. People come in when they're needed. And there have always been people that come in completely out of their time frame. You know, the energy is completely different, but they plant a seed. And they come in and do a lot of damage and dig up the dirt and plant a seed, and then that starts, the cycle. So yeah, absolutely.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
I mean, he came in for a short period of life, changed the world, and left. He's off to do something else now.
That reminds me of the old saying, the good die young. One of the reasons the good die young is because they've already done what they came here to do. You know, and a good test of if you still have stuff to do, if you can't lay down, close your eyes, and get out of your body and leave, you still got stuff to do. If you can't lay down and die, you still got stuff to do. So if you're still here, you still got work to do. Now, figuring out what that work is where we're going next. So does anybody have any questions about, did anything come up over the break, or were we just getting water and stuff and chit-chatting? Is there any questions about what we kind of discussed at the very end? Good. That means I get to talk more. So most of my book, most of my work deals with perspective. Perspective is really just a laser keen filter focus point on who you are. What is your perspective? What creates your perspective? If you do a lot of Course in Miracles work, or you talk to a lot of Buddhists like that, they tell you, nothing means anything. Nothing means anything until you put a judgment on it, until you use perspective. There is no good or bad. There is no really black or white, good and evil, stuff like that. It's all perspective. And your perspective is derived from your experiences. And your experiences start from what you bring with you. You are who you are. Then you come into this world, and you are given parents and grandparents and society and schools and and all this information and stuff that gets kind of compounded. And that's why you have, like Dolores talks about, a lot of the first waivers, they want to commit suicide. Because they came in, they did what they were supposed to do, and they were still miserable. Because it wasn't who they were, but they still did their job. A lot of the light workers nowadays don't realize they're light workers. They're not aware of it. But just by being who they are and vibrating, everything's vibration. So if you just do what you do, and you are who you are, you're still changing the world. You're still helping everybody. But if you're aware of it, and you can focus it. You can put some energy behind it. And put thought and feeling, or thought and emotion together to make a feeling. A lot of the prayer that we are doing, either in a religious standpoint, or in a meditative standpoint, or in a law of attraction standpoint, a lot of these visualizations and prayers that we're doing is just trying to create a feeling. If you look at a lot of Native American and a lot of the old tribal traditions, the feeling is the prayer. Okay? So if you're doing law of attraction, they tell you to think positively. The reason you start thinking positively is your feelings are a combination of emotion and thought. Okay? You take, say, thought is the direction, and feeling is the power. And you get, emotion behind that. So say the thought is the arrow, and the feeling is the string that you pull back. You release that, gives you the feeling. These are things you're trying to develop with the law of attraction. And the reason I spend so much time working on people's perspective and who they are is that when you realize where you come from, you realize why you think the way you do, you realize what your filters are, you start realizing that what you like, what resonates with you, these are the things that you're here to do. These are the things that are part of your path. These are the things that are going to help you along the way. A lot of times we'll get real inspired, we'll watch The Secret, we'll watch The Secret Behind the Secret, we'll watch all these things and decide that I'm going to use the law of attraction, I'm going to make $1 million. Probably not. Some people might, but the only real reason that you won't is that, do you know what it feels like to have $1 million? I don't know. I would like to, I plan on it, but at this moment, I don't. And that's all because I haven't developed the thoughts and the feelings to get to that space. And that's why when you start this process, we start using the law of attraction, we start figuring out who you are, you a lot of times, and I'm going to patent this so nobody steal it, but you fall into the 12-step, 2-step. And the 12-step, 2-step is really a process of relearning, reintegration, relearning, reintegration. You're teaching yourself a new thought, and then you're falling back on the old pattern to reintegrate and to refocus that thought. If you follow Joe Dispenza at all, if you've watched What the Bleep Do We Know and Down the Rabbit Hole and all that, it's a lot of neural pathway mapping, or it's, what do you call it? Anyway, it's all about how your thoughts create neural pathways. I'm not Joe, I can't remember his spiel, which is probably a good thing. But each thought that you have creates a new neural pathway. The more you think that thought, the bigger that neural pathway gets, the more solid it gets. So if you've been thinking a thought for 30 years and you decide, I don't like this thought, I'm going to change it, there are 2 ways to change it. There's the process way, kind of long, hard, 12-step way, or there's the catastrophe way. One's quicker, but it hurts a lot more. You've seen a lot of people that they've been living their life a certain way, you want them to change, you think they need help, you can't help them, they're not there yet. And then they have a car accident, somebody dies, something bad happens, they change on a dime. That is the catastrophe way, and it's one way to do it. Probably not all of us want to do it that way. A lot of us need to do it the more kind of gradual way. So as you look at your life and decide you want to be a reporter, you want to look at your parents, you want to look at your schools, you want to look at the things that mean something to you, and figure out why you think the way you do, why you like what you do, why you chose the parents you chose, and you chose them. Whether you hate them or not, there's a reason, and that's one of the reasons you have to figure out why you chose them. Most of the work I do is around helping somebody realize they have free will, and everything you do is a choice. Everything you experience, you are a co-conspirator in at some point. If you're familiar with Abraham and all of his stuff, and Esther and Jerry, Jerry's gone now, but he still held it. You know that you are a co-conspirator with the universe. You've heard all this, you know about the vortex, you know about law of attraction, all that stuff. All these things work in tandem. Your thoughts about what you want, along with the emotions, one of the things that I work on personally, I'm still working on, I'm getting better at, is the monetary stuff. My thoughts about money. Not because I dislike money, I love money. But when I'm paying for something, and I feel, because you know you have that little brain tied to your bank account, and I feel the bank account get low, I have an emotional reaction to that. If I want to have abundance, I have to change that emotional reaction. I have to change that feeling. You know, I can sit here all day and go, I think I'm rich, but I don't feel it. You know, and it's a combination of things. And you go back and forth with, here's my thought, but here's how I really feel, and so this is what I'm creating. You know, we can put the formula up and use the formula to give you a guidepost to do your work. But, you know, your thoughts plus your emotions, and emotions are good, bad, and indifferent. They're just emotions. It's your perspective on those emotions that really kind of give them power. That equals the feeling. Well, pick a subject real quick. Money, relationships, family, whatever. Whatever pops in your head. Close your eyes and just feel. What is the feeling surrounding that emotion? What is the feeling surrounding that thought? Why do you have that feeling connected to that thought? This is where your investigation starts. This is where the work starts. If that feeling is not the feeling you want, then you might want to do a little investigating on why you feel that way with that particular thought. And being a private eye into your life is probably one of the best ways. You want to live in a perpetual state of kind of questioning and wonderment. Why am I who I am? Why do I think the way I think? Why do I react the way I react? Because if you realize that your perspective colors everything, and that nothing really is anything, then how come when that guy cuts you off in traffic, do you want to kill him? All he did was come in traffic. He didn't think he did anything wrong, but you have a knee-jerk emotional reaction to that. That's training. That's ingrainment. Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you can control your thoughts and your emotions, and therefore can't you control how you feel and how, like you said, everything is down to willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can control how you feel, and don't you think people could have a bigger grasp and have more connection and more acceptability to other people?
Yeah, that's where we're working towards. And that's one of the biggest jobs for Indigos, for the new kids, is to help people out of their old paradigm of belief and into the new one. You know, one of the most prevalent paradigms right now is, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Why? Shouldn't it be, if it's too good to be true, it should be true?
People are afraid of a lot.
Right, because we've been ingrained into a society of fear.
Okay.
You know, so we're trying to move out of fear into love. And what you do is work on yourself and not everyone else. Because one of the ego's best tricks is, as soon as you get a new idea, you found a new thing, you come to a lecture like this and you hear all this stuff, you want to go tell your entire family about what you just learned. And what's the first thing they do? Just why? Well, it's part of the process. You have to be sure that you want to do this to move forward. So if you go tell your family and they poo-poo it and you go, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do it anyway. That's really the first step in the process. Okay. What most of us do, and I know in my experience, I was so excited about all this stuff. I go running to my dad and I go, look at law of attraction, look at the secret, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, God. He's like, so you want me to think positive and that'll make my life better? You're so full of it. I was like, I was heartbroken. You know, I was so excited. But that was a function of my ego. Now, depending on who you read, if you go with Eckhart Tolle or whoever, your ego is either this bad thing you need to control and kill, or it's going to be your friend. I like to go with the friend. There is no good or bad, it's just an experience. If you can make your ego your friend, then you have a partner in this. Okay? course, training or retraining our egos is a bit like taking, if you got the cook and he found the cook on a ship and he found the captain's wheel empty and nobody stopped him and he took over the ship, he don't want to get out of the driver's seat. So you have to show him that your way is better. Show the ego your way is better. But the only way to start doing that is really to start retraining yourself. And as you move along, you're going to have a lot of step backs. We learn a new thought, we learn a new theory, we learn a new, meditation, and we try these things out. And we're great for a while, and then we get bored, or it gets routine, or then we find ourselves doing something else, and then we all of a sudden go, wait, I was so motivated a minute ago, now I'm just doing the same old stuff. And then we get down on ourselves. Well, the process goes a little something like this. When it's time for a change, you realize it's time for a change, you have the aha moment. Doesn't mean you're changed yet, it just means it's time to start changing. So you become more and more aware of that behavior you want to change. As you're becoming aware of that behavior, it kind of goes like this. I'm aware of it, but I can't do anything about it, it's just the way I am. I'm aware of it, I can't do anything about it, but I'm trying. I'm aware of it, I can't do anything about it. I want to stop, but I can't. You get to a point where you realize that you're doing a behavior, you see yourself doing the behavior, you can't stop yourself doing the behavior, you're mad at yourself, but you do it anyway. Each time you think that thought, you're retraining your brain. That behavior is just a trained thought. And as you work through those thoughts, you're working through behavior and you're basically making new neural pathways. The other neural pathways haven't gone anywhere. So you still have to detour as often as possible. But as you see yourself creating this behavior once more and having these thoughts and not being able to stop yourself and getting all down on yourself, that's part of the step back. That's part of the reintegration. Okay? As you step forward with this thought, you take your 2 steps and then you take your step back. That step back is reintegration. It's a critical part of the process. This is where you clean out stuff. This is where you realize what that old behavior was, why you're doing it, and why you don't want to do it anymore. So a lot of us that get into law of attraction and a lot of New Age universal insights, we realize that it's not as easy as they say it is. I can't just think great thoughts and then get this. If you pay attention, Secret, if you watch The Secret and you pay attention, I think it was John Assaraf, when he's talking, he's like, I started to put my vision board up and I did this and I did that, and then 5 years later I moved into this house. Most people forget that he said 5 years later, okay? And I think he did that pretty quick. So it all depends on your entrainment, wherever you're at, on how quick you can do this stuff. Now, the nice thing is you have a lot of support now. So we have people like this, we have groups like this, we have friends like this who can support us and who can remind us, that you're doing good and you're not falling back, you're not falling back in the old paradigm, you're not broken, you're doing the work, okay? So, look back on, just for a moment, look back on your parents. Whether you like them or not, look back on your parents and ask yourself, why did I choose them? And if it has to be a what if exercise, make it, well, what if I did choose them before I came in? What was I trying to learn? If they were there, if they weren't there, if they were wonderful, if they were evil, if they were addicted to this or that thing, the other thing, what did you get out of that? What were you learning? What are you trying to learn? Were you trying to break a soul group? Were you trying to break out of a cycle through lifetimes that you've been stuck in for 100 years? And you picked the worst parents you could find so that they would break you out of that because you couldn't take it anymore? That's a possibility. We are creatures and victims and whatever you want to call it of our circumstances. We're never really victims, but we like to think we are. We're trained to be victims. And some of the worst tragedies, if you pick up a copy of my book, a friend of mine, who's one of my mother's best friends, suffered some of the worst abuse I've ever heard of. I mean, if you sit there and think about the worst thing you could think of on your darkest day. This girl went through all of it, to the point where she's a multiple personality now. Her personality broke into pieces to deal with what she went through. And she hated her father till the day he died. But she's actually gotten to a point now where she realizes that she went through that to awaken her healing gifts, to awaken what was inside of her, to show her that she has these abilities. And if she hadn't gone through that, you know, she wouldn't have gotten to where she is today. So I mean, as awful as you can imagine it, there's a reason they chose that. And for a lot of folks, and for a lot of, especially as we really get into this work and really start working on yourself, that's a big leap. I chose my parents. Are you kidding me? That's a big leap. So you gotta start where you're at. Where am I today? How do I feel today? How can I make myself feel a little bit better? Okay. And then as you move forward, you will step back. But as you go through the process and you learn that that step back is natural, it's necessary, and it's probably the most important part, you won't beat yourself up as much. When you get emotional, when you have those days where you can't believe you're here again, wherever that is, if you can't believe that you're in the store again, maxing out your credit card again, you're just reinforcing why you don't want to do it. It's the same reason you chose certain parents, the same reason you chose certain lifetimes, the same reason you chose to be where you are. You know, I'm not being overly judgmental, but there's certain parts of Alabama that don't really cater to us, weird people, you know. And I wondered for a long time why I grew up in Central Texas in a Southern Baptist background. Luckily, I went to Germany, so I got to experience Europe, so that was good. Then I went back to Texas, and then, you know, and ended up in Alabama going, what the hell am I doing here? This is one of the questions I have to ask myself a lot of times. And there's a reason. You know, I'm here, I get to come here and talk to you guys. You know, we're all here so we can help raise the vibration of Alabama, of the Southeast, of the U.S., of the world. So you are where you are for a perfect God-given universal reason. And if you're struggling, you got to figure out that reason. And how you figure out that reason is you really figure out who you are. And I don't know any better way of figuring out who you are and what you want than by going back and looking at your baggage. You got this train of crap you've been carrying with you for 30 years. You might as well look at it. When you look at it, and look at it as impartially as you can, which in the beginning it isn't very impartial. There's going to be a lot of anger and emotion, probably some tears, and maybe some burning of things, you know. But if you can be an impartial observer on your life, and figure out why you put yourself through all that crap, you can start to get a handle on, okay, well, I wanted to learn this. I wanted to be this person. I wanted to grow this way. And, you know, I haven't figured out any better way to learn things than to figure out what I don't want, to figure out what I do want. I know there's a better way. I can just figure out what I want. But if you figure out what you don't want, you're still figuring out what you want. So if you don't like what you had and you want something different, figure out why you got what you had. So you know now what you want. So I don't want to harp on parents anymore. I don't want to harp on, you know, all that stuff, but that's where you begin. You begin with, who am I right now? How do I become this person, and where do I want to go? And it takes work. You know, I mean, nowadays, luckily for you, luckily for me, I mean, when I was studying with my Course in Miracles teacher, he's been doing it for 30 years. Thankfully, he's been doing it for 30 years. I didn't have to study that long. I learned what I needed to learn really quickly because he was so good at it. As we progress, we get to learn faster and faster and faster. For a lot of you kids nowadays, you already know it, but you're going to get it that much quicker. A lot of us, maybe a little more mature, it takes a little bit longer, but you have that support. And really, it's always an inside job. You always started in your temple. You're always in here. You know. So we have to begin breaking out of that outward mentality, that outward mobility. And a lot of that is breaking down. It's all a part of our socioeconomic system. It's all materialism. It's all outside there. It's all outside of me. If I get this, then I'll be happy. When I win the lottery, then I'll do this. Then I'll be happy then. When I get this girl, when I get this guy, stop. What do you want? Cultivate it within yourself. You know, if you're talking law of attraction, that's how you attract. Who am I? You want to know who you are? Look around you. See the people that reflect. They're all mirrors. They all reflect for you. If you don't like the people around you, they do. They're a reflection of you. Now, that don't mean that the people around you are exactly your personality and who you are, but what do you notice about those people? Why do they irritate you? What's the point of them being there irritating you? What are you trying to learn? Yeah. Okay. If you guys aren't aware of Bashar, if you get on YouTube and you look at Dolores Cannon, somewhere you'll run into Bashar. Bashar is a interdimensional future being that's channeled through Daryl Anka. And it's probably one of the best people to learn from because of his expansive knowledge. You know, if we're in 3D moving into 4 or 5D, this person's in 7D looking down and can give us the whole map. You know? And one of the things that I know I struggled with was going, I must live in the kindergarten of the universe. We're all a bunch of idiots. But we're not.
How are you spelling the name?
Bashar, B-A-S-H-A-R. Just type in Bashar. You can type in Bashar challenge or whatever. But Earth is not the kindergarten of the universe like we thought it was. This is a master's school. This is a school for masters. You're all getting a master's degree. What the whole point of us coming to Earth and for the duality that we experience here, the powers that be decided, and you have to look at the universe as a big experiment, because it really is, because we're eternal. Eternal beings. It means we gotta find crap to do forever. So we get creative. And the idea behind Earth was, okay, if we're eternal beings, let's create a place that is so dualistic and dark, and see if we can still climb out of it, and still return to the light. And that's why you're all here. You're here getting your master's degree, because we're going from the darkest of the dark, dualistic, materialistic, masochistic worlds and bringing it back to the light. Okay? So quit beating yourselves up for your shopping sprees and for all the things that you beat yourself up for, whatever that may be. That's just part of our adaptation to this world. But we're moving out of that. Okay? As spiritual masters, students, you are getting a highly condensed and accelerated school. We aren't here suffering and hating life for no reason at all. We're not just stuck here. We didn't choose to come to this ball of rock and mud and water to suffer. We came here to stop the suffering. Okay. So as you're suffering and going through your own personal hell on earth, realize you're not just working for you. You're working for everybody. And if you actually, I wanna take a moment to take the demonization. We in Western society like to demonize powerful words, like selfish. Selfish is, that's like one of the worst things you could be growing up as a kid. You're so selfish. Selfish is just sense of self. If you are truly 100% spiritually, holistically, universally selfish, all you're doing is taking care of your own needs. If you were to take care of your own needs, the only thing left is everyone else. And if you do the work inside, you're already affecting everybody else. That's why they call you light workers, because you radiate light to everybody. Okay? And I know that A lot of you guys have read 8 billion books, and gone to a bunch of different conferences, stuff like that, but you're still here. You're still working. Maybe you're just here enjoying the ride, but you're still here. So figure out why you're still here. You know, why are you here listening to me run my mouth for 2 hours? You know, what's the point? What are you trying to learn? What are you trying to get out of it? You know? And if you don't want to, don't. The nice thing about being eternal is that you can do whatever the hell you want for as long as you want to do it. Okay? But I assume that most of us, being where we are, the time we're at, we would like to grow. We'd like to accomplish something. And that's why we're here. So, questions? I feel like this is a good question time. Nope, you're all dumbfounded right now.
Oh, okay.
Do it. Give me a weird. I love weird questions.
Okay. All right. Don't want to embarrass anybody here, but those of us who are beginning to get a little long in the tooth now.
Mature? Like fine wine?
Okay. There's still hope.
There never was. There was never a time there wasn't hope. That was a perception.
So we can still go out and do what we feel we were put here to do,
Absolutely.
even though we've learned it a little late in life.
Absolutely.
You're still in your physical body.
Yeah. But see, that's the whole thing. That's the judgment. That's the perception of, oh, and I have experienced this. I don't know how many times I was at dinner in the Yucatan with a bunch of people talking with a guy who was late 50s, 60s, and he was just so upset that he didn't learn this stuff earlier. You learned it exactly when you needed to learn it. And by the way, you didn't learn anything. You remembered it.
Yeah, but you're put down as a child because you were trying to do what you were put here to do,
Right.
or came here to do. And so your mother, whatever, would tell you, don't say things like that. They're going to think you're crazy. Don't
Right.
do that. You know, so that's what you're brought up with.
Right. Well, you're here to break that mold because your mother raised you up that way and said, and in well meaning, always remember, everybody's doing the best they can every day. If they can do better, they would. She was raising you the best she could. She wanted you to be able to function in society, in the world that she raised up in, which is funny if you look at the way we set it up, because we're raised by people that came from the old society to raise us as we move into the new society. So we're always got antiquated learning.
But she was contradicting though, because at the same time,
Absolutely.
she was telling me, you are the I am, you are the temple,
Right.
but you can't do this.
Right.
You can't go out and do this. You
Right.
can't say these things.
And that was part of her path, part of her learning. You were here to teach her that no, no, no. I can be the I am, I can do these things, I can say these things, and I can still be accepted. Now, from what it sounds like you're telling me, what you've done is done what she told you to do and realized it didn't work for you, and now you're changing. Well, if she's still running, you go, well, I did it your way, it didn't work, so now I'm doing it my way. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that that's called a learning lessons? We get them. We get them from individuals. We get them tonight and here. We get a lesson. And how we process that lesson, you know, like your mother in the time she was in couldn't cross over the barrier. Now you have learned that learning lesson. You're crossing over the barrier into more light. And as we get more light, we become even stronger light beings. And we are light beings. We are absolutely, we can be fluid, you know, fluid. We can get so full of energy of light if you really get to the source of the light. And as you go, you will learn all kinds of fantastic things. I mean, you can sit and float. You can fly. You can do anything. I teach my granddaughter as we're going down a hill to look up at the trees. And as she's looking up, the gravity of going down in the motion of the highway, she's flying. And then she'll go, I'm actually flying. It's all what we perceive. It's a growth process. And we cannot control anyone. So we learn, if we ever learn that we are not controllers, we cannot control what happens, and we just stand back and watch that person grow.
Yeah, you said something profound, which
Yeah.
goes right along with you are where you need to be perfectly.
At the time.
Your mother couldn't quite cross that barrier. but you can't. You see?
They used to hide and pray.
Yes, sir.
I think that what our mother was teaching her was how to be, but how to get away with it. You had but do this and find a way to balance the two.
And you see how
Because
effective
fitting
that
in
was?
is important, and being what you have to be is important too. So I think your mother was wiser than you're giving her credit.
Well, I know she was smart.
They
And you picked her.
usually, everybody does everything for a reason.
She picked me.
Yeah.
She picked me.
Well,
So-
maybe you conspired the universe to be born to this person that's going to give you up for adoption, so you can be adopted by your mother. I mean, there's no chance, there's no coincidence. You know, the
Can you
universe conspires.
expound on how, because I have friends here, how you choose your parents?
Well, I mean, if you go get some regression, and the Dolores Cannon style regression, in between lives, you're basically, I mean, if this is a school, in between lives, you decide what your next lesson is, what's your next class. I mean, you go to college, you have a curriculum, and you gotta take life 101 and math, blah, 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 and all that stuff, and then next year you take 102 or 201 or whatever. You have things you're trying to accomplish for yourself, for the greater good, for the universe. And so you pick the people to give you the tools that you need to become that person to accomplish those things. So you choose your parents to give you those things, or to be the example, sometimes the bad example of what you want to be. You know?
Or to come out of those things to be of service to other like ones, or people that are trying to reach the point of where they need to cross. I call it crossing over, like progression. You know, we all progress. It's like evolution, like we was talking.
Yeah, the reason we choose who we choose is something that unfortunately only each one of you can answer for yourselves. But there's help. There's all sorts of wonderful people out there that can help you. You know, someone like myself, someone, you know, like my girlfriend, or like Doris Cannon, or, you know, what was your name again? Marsha. You know, Twyla, one of my favorite lovely beings. She helps me all the time. Okay. So there's always people out there to help you. You know, you're not alone in your journey, but you have to be aware of what resonates with you. And one of the things I put in my book, and I will always put in my book, and I will always tell people at any of my talks, you're going to remember something. Something's going to resonate with you. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, remember that. There's a reason it resonated with you. There's a reason it struck a chord. If I said something, or somebody says something that just pisses you off to no end, it struck a chord. Why did it strike a chord? What were they showing within you? What were you trying to hear? What were you trying to learn? Okay. It's always about us. So for us self-centered people, it's great. It's always about me. It's my world. You know, if I were to ask all of you, and this will be fun, I haven't done this in a while. Let's get a show of hands. How many people believe we all live in the same world? None of you. Okay? We live on the same world, but we all live within our own world of experience and perspective, and just you, I guess, would be the best, the bubble of you. Okay. Where do we go from here? Somebody have a question or a comment? How much time do we have?
Another 10 minutes.
Another 10 minutes? Okay. Question?
I've got a comment. Okay, so I'm gonna be the lucky lady and say that this is my life partner. And I wanted to say that what I've learned since I've been with Jason is the fact that he teaches me every single day that it's not your life, it's you, just like his books. And how he does that is, instead of when I come home, it's not, oh, this guy cut me off on the road today, or this happened to me, or this happened to me. No, he'll say something like, I'm really sorry, baby, my pain body was activated today. Who do you know talks like that?
Don't lie. Okay.
But the thing is that because I hear these things, I start to use that terminology. And I start to give other people their freedom. I let other people express themselves.
I start to see things that way. I start to be present in the moment now. And when things happen to me, they don't happen to me. My pain body was activated. So you stop blaming other people and you start taking responsibility for yourself. But in doing that, you're giving yourself freedom and you're giving everybody else the freedom to be themselves too.
Yeah.
That's light work.
She
So
brings
just
up
thought
a
I'd add that.
Thank you, baby. She brings up a good point. One of the things that I daily work on, and it may be one of the things that you can integrate in your life, I don't always bitch about the things that maybe I should or that most people would, mainly because I'm trying to be conscious of the fact that what that thing is or whatever it is isn't really what I think it is. It's my thought, it's my perception. You know, so when I'm mad about the dishes, or I'm mad about this guy cutting me off, or I'm mad about this, I'm not really mad about those things, I'm mad about my perception of it. You know? Twilight.
You were talking about feelings a minute ago, and I think you and me talked about this once, but I just want to say something about, because I don't remember who said something behind us, but feelings, you can never ever change your feelings like something occurred, but what you can change is how you react to those feelings. That's what makes the difference, not the feelings, but how you react.
Yeah, you and I have had this discussion.
Yeah.
Your feelings are the same as my emotions,
Mm.
because your emotions are just emotions.
Yeah.
It's your reaction to them. You know, one of my favorite sayings is every emotion has tears. If you're exceptionally happy, you're going to cry. If you're exceptionally sad, you're going to cry. If you're exceptionally angry, you're going to cry. Every emotion has tears. That's the same reaction for different emotions. Okay. Every emotional body reacts with tears. Okay. Your emotions run the gambit from complete despair to elation, joy, bliss. Okay. And wherever you are that day, it's just an emotion. Okay. It's how you react to it, it's how you deal with it, it's how you project it that changes it. Okay. And one of the things that I work on a lot is the duality perspective. Okay. There is no good, bad, black and white. There is no evil, well, all that stuff. We, as human beings, are capable of everything. One of the things I used to tell people when I would talk to them, they'd be like, oh, you're probably going to think bad about me because da 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 da. I'm like, look, if I'm at this point in my life and I feel this way and I can accept you where you are, that means I've done worse at some point in my life or in some other life or something like that. We've experienced it all. And we are capable of the dark is dark and the light is light, that we are whole beings. And we have to make friends with the fact that, yes, we have a dark side. But that dark side is useful. If you look up Debbie Ford, read any of her books, the shadow self, that's what she calls it. It's useful. If I'm an asshole to you, it's useful. Now, if I'm just being an ass, then that's my problem. But if I'm running a business and the guy's late or is, you know, skimming on my order or something like that, if I'm an ass to him, then that's useful because I might get results. Okay? There's no good, bad, you know, it's how you use it, it's how you perceive it, it's how you utilize it in your life. Okay? And a lot of us spend a lot of time going, well, I'm a light worker, I want to be a light, da da da. I can't be angry, I can't be mad, I can't be sad, I can't da 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 da. Stop it. Integrate those feelings. See why they're good. See why when your friend calls you whatever name they call you, how that could be a good thing. What did you get out of it? Why are you doing that? Why are you acting that way? Okay. We as light workers moving into the next phase of human consciousness, the next evolution, have to be whole people. There's a fun phenomenon going on right now, which is if you look around, there's more women here, I believe, than men. In most New Age, light worker, whatever areas, it's mostly female. There's an influx of the divine feminine, and we as men have to integrate the divine feminine. Now, the nice thing for you ladies, one of the few things that's actually been easier for you in the past 2,000 years, your integration of the masculine. Strong women are in vogue. It's okay to be a strong masculine more masculine than women, because we're balancing a male and female. We have to balance the dark and light too. And I would prefer if we didn't call it dark and light, you know? It's my utility belt. Batman, wait, maybe I should say that. But these are all tools that we use to go through life. So none's good, none's bad, it's how you utilize it. You know, if you're trying to screw a screw with a hammer, you might need a new tool. It might be effective, it might not give you quite the same result. Well, we only have 5 minutes left. Any questions?
A question, let's say for instance you think you have an indigo child.
Probably do.
What is the best way to nurture them when they're being different, when it's